Okay, in this quick demo, I'm going to go over how you can make bubble letters and block letters if you have a hard time doing that. Sort of an easy way to begin learning how to do that. And this is how I learned when I was little, and I eventually got really good at it. And now I can just make a bubble letter without any extra support because now I understand the shapes that go into it. But sometimes at first that's really difficult for you to do. So when you first learn to make bubble letters, if you're having a hard time, one thing you can do is start with drawing the letter or writing the letter normal, the way you would normally write it. So here's I'm gonna do a lowercase r first. I'm gonna draw lightly, but I'm gonna press harder than I normally would, just so you can see it. Normally I draw even lighter than that, so I can erase. So there's my normal letter R. And if I wanna make this a bubble letter or a block letter, all I have to do is treat the normal letter R that I wrote as the skeleton, and then add a body. So a body goes all around the skeleton, and they call it a bubble letter for a reason. So we're gonna make a bubble around our letter R. So now I'm going to go up one side of my skeleton, over the top of the R, around it, under it, and down, and around. So now I've created a bubble around my letter R. And I can do the same thing with a block shape or any other kind of shape I want. Or even this works well for graffiti style of letters as well when you're learning to do those. So I can create sharper edges and create a block letter. And then we just erase the skeleton because once we have a body, we don't see the bones. So now I erase the skeleton inside, like so. Now to do an uppercase R or any other letter that has a wraparound, a bowl like this, that's a little bit more confusing sometimes for kids. So what I'm going to do is start with my regular letter R, nice and light. And now remember, I have to go around the bones everywhere I go. So if I start the outside of my bubble letter here, now I have the bones outside totally covered up, but I also want to cover up the inside. So I'm also going to make my bubble inside of that bowl part of the R. And this way, when I erase my original lines, my skeleton, this all looks like it's one fluid piece, like it's all connected here. Okay, if I don't do that, I have a little bit of a funny look to my R. I'll show you what I mean. When I don't do that, then I have this nice big outside piece. But if I just erase my skeleton now, either I have no inside piece at all and it looks empty and I have no hole in the middle, or if I use the original lines, the skeleton, as my hole, this looks really disproportionate. So this looks thick from here to here, but really skinny here to here. So that's why I tried to make sure that I also make an inside circle so that the thickness of the actual letter, once I'm done, is the same or close to the same all the way throughout, okay? So that is how you make bubble letters and block letters. Now, if I'm doing a word, if I'm doing an entire word, there's two ways you can do that, okay? Number one, you can write out the entire word first. I know this is funny and cliche, but I'm writing word. And then you can go back and block your letters in. Now, if you have your letters spread really far apart, you might be able to keep those all separated, but you also may want them to touch and overlap one another. So you have to make some decisions on that and what we see and what we don't see. So if I make my letters really thick right now, I'll have more of an overlap than if I made them skinnier. So here, if I make the thickness of my W here, how fat that bubble W is, the same for my O, then my O is going to touch or overlap the W. One is going to have to go behind or in front of the other. So I have to decide if I want my O behind or in front. Now, since I usually start with the first letter of the word, I usually now tuck the next letter underneath or appear underneath, because this way I don't have to erase part of my W. So I'll usually just start here and end here as if this continued behind here, but I don't see that. And again, I make sure I show the inside too, so I can erase my entire skeleton here. Okay, there we go. And the other way you could write this out is to just do one letter at a time. So I could just do the W and then bubble it or block it or do whatever kind of letters I wanted to do. And then I could do the O. And if I wanted it to touch, I'd keep it close. Maybe if I don't want them to touch, I'll separate them a little bit more and I'll spread them out a little bit more like that. And then again, go back and erase. And that is it. I hope you have fun practicing bubble letters and bubble words and block letters.